Lord Kensington would not marry a woman unless she was a virgin. Everyone in the ton knew it. Elaine Openbrook was not. In minutes, she would be taken downstairs to meet him. She lay on the narrow bed, fully dressed. Her hands rested at her waist. The ceiling above her showed a thin crack running from corner to corner. Downstairs, a drawer closed. Footsteps crossed the hall. A door opened and shut. The marriage had been arranged to save her family. Her father's estate no longer paid for itself. Fields stood partially leased. Repairs were delayed. Accounts were discussed behind closed doors. Her mother had begun removing small objects from the house. A silver tray disappeared, then a set of candlesticks. Nothing was announced. Elaine did not move. No one knew the truth. Not her parents, who spoke of the match as if it were fortune. Not the servants gathering below, waiting to see the man who would soon decide the household's future. Not Lord Kensington. The riding accident had happened the previous year. A startled horse, a shifted saddle, one moment alone. Afterward, no explanation was given. No questions were asked. The truth remained where it had fallen. Elaine turned her head toward the window. Winter light reached the floor but went no farther. The glass rattled once in the frame. She had rehearsed the same sentence repeatedly. Each time it ended before being spoken. The rule was known. It had been stated plainly before the arrangement was approved. Lord Kensington was a man of order, of restraint, of standards that did not bend. Elaine pressed her fingers into the coverlet. She released them. A knock came at the door. "Miss Elaine," a servant said, "your parents request you downstairs." Elaine stood. She smoothed the front of her dress once. She checked the mirror only long enough to confirm that nothing showed. When she opened the door, the corridor was already in motion. Voices carried upward. The house was awake. She stepped out. At the bottom of the stairs waited a man whose single rule could end the arrangement before it began. Elaine descended, knowing that once she reached the hall, there would be no revision. Only silence. Only truth. Or the secret she would carry forward alone. Elaine descended the stairs without rushing. The carpet runner softened the sound of her steps, but not the awareness of being watched. A maid stood near the banister, pretending to adjust a vase. Another lingered at the corridor's edge. In the sitting room ahead, voices had lowered. Someone had already announced her. She crossed the threshold. Lord Kensington stood. Not abruptly, not slowly, simply because it was expected. He was taller than she had imagined. Broad-shouldered, but spare rather than imposing. His coat was dark and unadorned. Nothing about him sought attention. Nothing yielded it either. He bowed. Correct. Measured. Miss Openbrook. His voice carried no warmth and no chill. It landed where it was placed. My lord. She returned the bow. Her hands remained still at her sides. They sat. Tea was poured. Porcelain met saucer. Steam rose and went untouched. Her mother spoke first. Polite remarks. Gratitude. References to convenience and timing. Her father followed, stiff-backed, nodding along as though agreement itself were labor. Lord Kensington listened. He did not interrupt. He did not fill pauses. When her father trailed off, silence held for a full beat longer than comfort required. Then Lord Kensington set his cup aside. He had not taken a sip. "I understand," he said, "that this proposal has been made under some urgency." Her mother straightened. "Circumstances demanded decisiveness," she replied. "So I was informed." His gaze shifted. Not to her parents, but to Elaine, not assessing her face, simply acknowledging that she was the person being discussed. "I prefer clarity," he continued. "I find it prevents later difficulty. With your permission, I will speak plainly." Both parents agreed at once. Elaine said nothing. "I do not marry for sentiment," Lord Kensington said, "nor for appearances. Marriage, to my mind, is a structure. It must be sound before it is entered." Elaine kept her posture steady. "I require loyalty," he went on. "Discretion. and a shared understanding of what the union is and is not. The fire cracked softly behind her father. Elaine heard it too clearly. "I am aware," Lord Kensington added after a pause, "that expectations accompany my name." Her mother's gaze flicked toward Elaine. Elaine spoke before either parent could. "My lord," she said evenly, "what expectations do you consider essential?" He studied her for a moment longer this time. Not searching, weighing. "I require my wife to enter marriage without entanglements," he said, "without scandal, without complication." The room narrowed. There it was. Not accusation, not threat. Simply a line drawn long before she had entered the room. "I do not require affection," he continued. "I require certainty." Silence followed. Her parents waited. Elaine lowered her eyes to her folded hands. If she spoke now, truly spoke, the arrangement would end before the next cup cooled. She could see it as clearly as the pattern in the rug. Her father would fail. The estate would fall. Nothing would soften it. She lifted her gaze. "I understand," she said. Lord Kensington inclined his head slightly. "Acceptance, not relief. Then you understand why I'm prepared to proceed." Her mother exhaled. Her father shifted, tension easing by degrees. Elaine felt none of it. "My lord," she said again, "this arrangement is not born of affection, but I am capable of loyalty, of discretion, of honoring the role you describe." His attention sharpened. "I would not dishonor your name," she added, "nor the position you offer." For a moment he seemed poised to speak again. Then he nodded once. "Then we are agreed." The words settled. Final dates were mentioned. Licenses, practicalities. Elaine listened without comment as her future assembled itself around a truth she had not spoken. When Lord Kensington rose to leave, he turned to her. "You have my word," he said. "This marriage will be conducted with honor." She met his gaze. "And so will I," she replied. He departed. Elaine remained standing long after the door closed. She had not merely accepted a proposal, she had chosen silence. And the marriage would now move forward on a foundation only one of them fully understood. The church was cold. Candles lined the stone walls, their light steady, their warmth insufficient. Wax dripped. Shadows shifted. The air smelled faintly of damp and incense. Elaine stood just inside the vestibule, hands folded, spine straight. Voices carried from the nave, low, controlled, waiting. This was the last moment that belonged to her alone. Her parents stood behind her, not touching, not retreating. Her mother adjusted a ribbon at Elaine's shoulder, fingers precise, then stepped back. Her father said nothing. He did not need to. The doors opened. Elaine walked forward. The aisle was short. She did not hurry. Each step carried her closer to a future already decided. There were few guests. Lord Kensington had requested restraint. No crowd, no spectacle. Mercy disguised as modesty. He waited at the altar, straight-backed, composed, exactly as she had seen him in the sitting room weeks before. When he looked at her, there was no hesitation, no surprise, only acknowledgement. She reached his side. The vicar began. Words, spoken thousands of times before, filled the space between stone and candlelight. Elaine listened, repeated when prompted. Her voice remained even, no pause, no tremor. When Lord Kensington took her hand, he did so without delay. His grip was firm, correct, not possessive, not distant. They stood together while the vows sealed around them. When the final words were spoken, there was no applause, no rustle of approval, only completion. They turned as one. "My lady," he said. The title settled where her name had been. Outside, winter air struck sharp and clean. The carriage waited. Servants moved with quiet efficiency. The city watched from a distance, already reshaping the story to suit itself. Lord Kensington offered his arm. Elaine took it. Inside the carriage, silence followed them. The wheels rolled, Streets passed, stone and iron blurred into grey. "You need not be uneasy," he said at last. "This marriage will be conducted with discretion." Elaine did not look away. "I am not uneasy." A pause. "Very well." The estate gates appeared ahead, tall and wrought with authority. The carriage passed through them without slowing. The house loomed, doors opened, names were spoken, her name. When the household finally withdrew and the doors closed behind them, Lord Kensington did not lead her onward. He turned. "There is no expectation," he said carefully, "that we begin without regard for comfort." Elaine inclined her head. "I appreciate your consideration. We will proceed gradually." She understood. That night, Elaine lay alone in unfamiliar chambers. The house settled around her. Wood creaked, a distant door closed. Somewhere else in the estate, her husband slept. The truth did not move. Marriage had not softened it. Time had not altered it. It had only become more dangerous. She closed her eyes, knowing one thing with certainty. Silence had carried her this far. But now that she was a wife, it could cost her far more than it ever had before. Elaine learned the house by watching how it operated. Breakfast arrived at the same hour each morning. The tray was correct. The china matched the family crest. The tea was poured and left untouched by comment. No one lingered. She ate alone. Later that morning, she stepped into the corridor and nearly collided with Lord Kensington. He stopped immediately. "Good morning." "Good morning." He did not step past her. He did not expect her to move first. "I trust the house has been satisfactory." "Yes." "If it ceases to be," he said, "you will inform Mrs. Harrow." "I will." A pause. "There is no requirement," he added, "that you master the household at once." "That is good to know." Something flickered across his face. Brief, unreadable, before he inclined his head. They parted. The days established their pattern quickly. They met at meals, in corridors, near the fire in the evenings. He did not summon her. He did not avoid her. When she entered a room, he acknowledged it. When she left, he did not question it. On the fourth day, she entered the library. Lord Kensington stood at the window with estate papers in hand. He set them aside the moment he saw her. "You may come in." "I was only passing." "You are not intruding." She crossed the threshold. The shelves were filled with ledgers and maps, accounts marked in careful script. Nothing decorative, nothing idle. "You oversee this yourself," she said. "Yes." "You could delegate." "I choose not to." A servant appeared at the door. "My lord, the steward." "Later," Kensington said without turning. She was here first. The servant withdrew. Elaine noticed. "If you wish," Kensington said, "the western path is kept clear, even in winter. You need not direct my movements." "I am not," he replied. "I am offering knowledge." She inclined her head. "Then I accept it." That afternoon, she walked the western path. The gate was unlocked. A groom waited at a distance, close enough to assist, far enough not to follow. That evening, Kensington joined her at dinner. The table was set for two. "You need not dine alone," he said. "I did not request otherwise." "I know." Midway through the meal, a footman addressed her. "My lady, would you prefer—" "She will decide," Kensington said calmly. "And you will ask her?" The footman flushed. "Yes, my lady." Elaine nodded once. After dinner, Kensington spoke quietly with his steward. Instructions were given, corrections made. No voices were raised, nothing dramatic occurred. And yet, if he had been careless, this would have been simpler. If he had been cold, the silence would have required no effort. Instead, he noticed. He corrected others. He made space. That night, Elaine lay awake. Not from fear, from calculation. Each day that passed without indifference raised the cost of the truth, and when the time came to speak it, she would not be breaking an arrangement. She would be breaking a man who had acted in good faith. Elaine had begun to believe the rule would remain unspoken, not forgotten, simply unused. Days passed without incident. The household moved with quiet efficiency. Letters arrived and were answered. Meals were taken without remark. No one questioned, no one pressed. Then, one afternoon, the peace fractured. Elaine sat in the morning room with correspondence spread before her when voices carried from the corridor beyond. One was Lord Kensington's steward, careful, measured. The other belonged to a gentleman she did not recognize. She did not intend to listen, but her husband's name was spoken. "Always admired your consistency, my lord," the gentleman said. "Few men hold so firmly to principle." Elaine's hand paused over the page. Lord Kensington answered at once. Calm, certain. Principles are meaningless if they bend for convenience. She did not move. There was some speculation, the gentleman continued. Such haste in the engagement. People wondered whether I had compromised, Lord Kensington said. A pause. I had not. Elaine closed her eyes. My wife entered this marriage as my equal in honor, he continued. That was essential. Essential. Her fingers pressed into the desk. The men moved on. Their footsteps faded. The corridor emptied. Elaine remained where she was. Not now. Not like this. That evening she joined him at dinner. The table was set as usual. Candles burned low. Servants moved efficiently, then withdrew. Lord Kensington spoke of a boundary dispute with a tenant. Elaine answered when required. Her voice did not falter. He did not notice. When they rose from the table, he paused. You're quiet this evening. Elaine stopped walking. Am I? You are, he said. His tone did not change. I did not mean it as reproach. I was thinking. So was I, he replied. Perhaps that is why I noticed. Silence settled between them, not awkward, watchful. If there is something you wish to say, he added, you may speak freely. There it was. Elaine felt the words surge forward. Tell him. She looked at him, at the steadiness of his gaze, the patience in his posture, the certainty with which he stood in his own integrity. This rule was not pride. It was structure, and she was standing inside it. I have nothing of consequence to trouble you, she said. He searched her face for a moment. Then he nodded. Very well. That night, Elaine lay awake. The house was silent. Somewhere beyond her walls, Lord Kensington slept in the faith of a truth she had not given him. The longer she waited, the sharper the edge became. By morning, she knew what she had not allowed herself to admit before. This marriage was no longer an arrangement. And when the truth came, because it would not simply end something. It would wound someone who had done nothing to deserve it. The invitation arrived sooner than Elaine had expected. It was modest by society's standards, a winter gathering hosted by a neighboring family. Obligation more than celebration. Still, it would be her first appearance in public as the Duchess of Kensington. Elaine read the note twice. We are not required to attend, Lord Kensington said when she mentioned it later that morning. But it may be prudent. She folded the paper. Then we should go. He looked at her. We will attend together. The distinction mattered. The drawing room quieted when they entered. Not fully. Just enough. Elaine felt the attention settle. Quick glances, careful smiles, assessments already made. She kept her posture steady, her expression calm. Lord Kensington did not release her hand. Introductions followed. Compliments were offered. He answered when required, listened more than he spoke. When curiosity sharpened, he redirected it without display. My wife has endured sufficient scrutiny for one evening, he said mildly. Let us not add to it unnecessarily. No one objected. Elaine breathed out slowly. Later, she found herself seated beside an older matron with sharp eyes and a practiced smile. My dear, the woman said softly, your marriage was quite the surprise. Elaine inclined her head. Life does not always wait. So true. The woman's gaze flicked toward Lord Kensington. Still, one hears many things, Lord Kensington said, appearing beside them. "Few deserve repetition." The woman flushed. "Of course, my lord." "I know," he replied. "That is why I've spared us the discussion." He offered his arm. Elaine rose at once and took it. "Thank you." She did not say it. The carriage ride home passed in silence. Not strained, not distant. "They will speculate," he said eventually. "It is not yours to manage." She turned toward him. "You spoke for me." "It was necessary. It was kind." He paused. "Kindness does not conflict with principle." She looked away before he could read her face. "Please don't look this way." When the carriage stopped, he assisted her down. His hand lingered only long enough to be proper. That night, Elaine removed her gloves and set them aside. Something had changed. He had not defended her privately. He had claimed her publicly, and the knowledge settled heavily. When the truth came, because it would not simply expose her. It would wound a man who had chosen her without hesitation. The change did not announce itself. It arrived in habit. Lord Kensington began remaining in rooms Elaine occupied. Not intrusively, simply present. He would sit with a ledger while she read, stand by the window while she arranged flowers from the winter garden. They did not always speak. The silence no longer pressed. One evening, as the fire burned low, he spoke without looking up. "I will be away tomorrow." Elaine lifted her gaze. "For long?" "2 days, perhaps 3. A boundary dispute." She nodded. "I hope the weather holds." "So do I." A pause. "You need not alter your routine in my absence." "I would not have thought to." His mouth lifted slightly. "Good." When he returned 3 days later, travel-worn and quieter than usual, Elaine noticed before she meant to. She poured his tea without asking. He accepted it with a nod. "Thank you." They sat. "You manage much on your own," she said. "It is simpler." "And quieter?" He did not answer at once. "Yes." The word landed between them. "My father believed distance preserved authority," he said. "I learned it preserved isolation just as well." Elaine did not respond. She did not need to. "I do not regret my principles," he continued. "But they can narrow a life. They can also protect it," she said. "Yes." A pause. "When they are not used as walls." Their eyes met. Neither looked away. After that, the distance shifted. He spoke of the estate, of tenants, of land boundaries, of the weight of inheritance. Then she listened, asked questions, remembered details. She spoke of her childhood. Fields, horses, books hidden where no one thought to look. She did not speak of the accident. He did not ask. One evening in the gallery overlooking the grounds, he stopped beside her. "You're not what I expected." Elaine turned. "Is that displeasure?" "No." He hesitated. "It is correction." She waited. "I expected gratitude," he said. "Compliance. And instead I am answered." Her breath caught, just slightly. "I am glad," she said. He did not contradict her. Later, as they passed a book between them, their hands brushed. Elaine stilled. "Not now." He withdrew first. The moment passed. It did not disappear. Elaine knew without comfort or illusion that something had changed. Affection no longer waited at a distance. It had begun to move, and when it reached them, the truth she carried would not remain hers alone. The night did not offer rest. Elaine slept little. When she did, it was shallow and broken. By morning, the decision she had avoided felt heavier than the secret itself. She did not bring the letter to breakfast. Lord Kensington was already seated when she entered. He rose, as he always did, pulled out her chair, waited until she was settled before returning to his place. Small courtesies, exacting, consistent. They spoke of nothing that mattered. Weather, accounts. A tenant expected before noon. Elaine barely tasted her tea. When the meal ended, he stood. "I will be in the study for the morning." She nodded. "Of course." He hesitated. just long enough for her to notice. "You are pale," he said. "If you are unwell." "I am not," she said quickly, then softened it. "Truly." He accepted the correction. "Very well." He left. Elaine remained seated. The letter lay folded in her pocket, its weight impossible to ignore. She found him an hour later. He stood at the desk, sleeves rolled, attention fixed on a map spread before him. He did not look up when she entered, but he knew she was there. He always did. "May I interrupt?" she asked. "Yes." No hesitation. She stepped farther into the room, closed the door behind her. His hand stilled on the map. Elaine did not sit. "There is something," she began. He turned then, fully, gave her his attention without reserve. She opened her mouth. Nothing came. "Say it. Now." Her hands tightened at her sides. "This is not easy," she managed. "I would not expect it to be," he said. The space between them felt suddenly small. "If what you carry is difficult," he continued, "you need not shield me from it." The words were not gentle. They were solid. Elaine felt her resolve buckle. She reached into her pocket and withdrew the letter, held it between them, unopened. "My mother writes too much," she said. "She always has." He did not take the letter. He did not reach for it. "That does not trouble me." "It should," Elaine said quietly. He studied her face. "Then tell me why." Silence. Elaine lowered her gaze. "Not yet." She shook her head once. "I cannot. Not this moment." He watched her for several seconds longer. Then he nodded. "Very well. No pressure, no disappointment. Trust." Offered again. He turned back to the desk. Elaine stood there, hollowed by relief and something far worse. That afternoon, she avoided him, not deliberately, instinctively. When dinner came, she took her seat across from him, her composure intact by habit alone. Conversation remained measured, civil. The cousin did not speak again. No one did. Later, as servants cleared the table, Lord Kensington rose. "You are walking tonight," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," she replied. "I will join you." Her breath caught. Outside, the air was cold and clear. Gravel crunched beneath their steps as they moved along the path without haste. He did not speak at first. Neither did she. "You are frightened," he said eventually. Elaine stopped. He stopped with her. "I'm careful," she corrected. "Yes," he said. "You are." The acknowledgement felt intimate. Dangerous. They resumed walking. "I will not force what you are not ready to give," he said. "But I will say this." She waited. "If something threatens this marriage," he continued, "it will not be silence that harms it." Her chest tightened. "Secrets do." They reached the turn in the path. Elaine said nothing. He did not press further. When they returned to the house, he offered his arm. She took it. That night, alone in her chamber, Elaine unfolded the letter again. The words had not changed, but she had. The truth was no longer a shadow waiting to be discovered. It was a choice she was making. Every day she delayed. And soon she would have to decide whether love demanded silence or honesty. Elaine did not move after he left the room. She crossed to the window and opened it. Cold air rushed in, sharp enough to sting her skin. She closed it again at once. The letter remained in her hand. She set it on the table, smoothed it once, did not look at it again. The house continued around her. Footsteps passed in the corridor. A door closed somewhere below. A servant's voice carried faintly, then faded. Nothing paused, nothing shifted. By midday, Lord Kensington had not returned to the study. At luncheon, his chair remained empty. No explanation was offered. The meal proceeded as usual. Elaine took her seat. She lifted her fork. She set it down again. Mrs. Harrow appeared at her side. "His Grace has ordered his horse, my lady." Elaine inclined her head. "Thank you." From the south window, she watched him ride out alone. He did not look back. Dinner was served at the appointed hour. Again, his chair remained empty. Conversation stayed measured. Servants moved efficiently. No one remarked upon the absence. Elaine excused herself early. The house settled into night. She read. She closed the book. She reopened it. The same page greeted her each time. Near midnight, hooves sounded in the yard. Elaine rose at once and crossed to the window. Lantern light caught the stone below. Lord Kensington dismounted stiffly, handed the reins to a groom, and stood for a moment without moving. Then he turned toward the house. Elaine stepped back from the glass. Footsteps approached her door. A knock followed. Firm, controlled. "My lady." She opened the door. He stood there with his coat unfastened, expression contained. Not anger, not softness. "May I come in?" "Yes." He entered. She closed the door. Neither spoke at once. "I rode the western boundary twice," he said. "I spoke with no one." She nodded. "I have decided nothing," he continued. "I understand." "I believe you," he said. Elaine's breath caught. She did not wait for him to continue. "I did not come to this marriage untouched," she said. "Not by choice." The words landed. Clean, irrevocable. Silence followed. "I was injured," she added. "Years ago." He did not move. "I did not tell you because I was afraid," she said. "Afraid of ruin. Afraid of what your rule meant." She lifted her chin. "But I am telling you now." He drew a slow breath. "I believe you," he said at last. "I believe it was not your choice." "Yes." "I believe you were afraid." "Yes. But belief does not erase consequence." "No." Silence held. "You placed me in a difficult position," he said. "I know. And yet," he continued, "you have done what I required." She looked up. "You told me yourself." He stopped a short distance from her, close enough that she could see the effort it cost him to remain still. "That matters." Elaine did not speak. "For tonight," he said. "Nothing changes." She nodded once. "You will remain here. You will not be questioned. I will not permit speculation." "Thank you." "As for us," he added, "we will proceed carefully." He inclined his head. Then he turned and left. Elaine remained where she was. The confession had been spoken. The marriage had not ended. Between those two facts stretched something narrow and uncertain, and she stood in the middle of it. Elaine did not see him for the rest of the day. She noticed it first at luncheon. His chair remained empty. The steward waited a moment longer than usual before giving the signal to serve. No explanation followed. The meal proceeded as if nothing were amiss. Elaine ate. She tasted nothing. In the afternoon, she crossed the gallery at the hour he usually reviewed accounts with his secretary. The door to the study stood open. The desk was clear, the fire unlit. By evening, the absence had acquired weight. Servants adjusted without comment. Dinner was laid for one. When Elaine entered the dining room, she paused, just long enough to confirm what she already knew, then took her seat. No message arrived. No request was sent. The clock struck 8, then 9. She left the table untouched and moved to the drawing room. The fire there had been lit. Someone had anticipated her presence. Someone had also anticipated that she would be alone. Elaine sat. She did not open a book. She did not ring for tea. She rested her hands in her lap and waited. The door opened near midnight. She rose before she saw him. Lord Kensington entered quietly, his coat already removed. He closed the door behind him with care and crossed the room without haste. He did not approach her at once. He stopped at the mantel instead, resting one hand against the stone. "I have been out," he said. "Yes," Elaine replied. "I did not wish you to think I had gone because of anger." She nodded once. She did not speak. He turned then, fully, his expression composed but altered, not distant, not warm, focused. "I needed to understand what I was being asked to reconsider." Elaine remained standing. "For many years," he continued, I believed certainty was the same as protection. He paused. Not for effect, because he was choosing. My rule was not born of judgment, he said. It was born of order. Elaine's fingers curled slightly. I now see, he said, that order can conceal cruelty when it refuses context. Silence. I am not prepared, he added, to undo my principles. Elaine inhaled, steadying herself. But neither, he said, am I prepared to punish truth spoken at personal cost. He stepped closer. Not near enough to touch, but close enough that distance could no longer hide them from one another. You feared ruin, he said. You feared humiliation. You feared that I would not listen. Yes, you were correct, he said quietly. I would not have listened then. The admission settled heavily. For now, he said, our marriage stands unchanged. Elaine looked up. You will remain mistress of this house. There will be no withdrawal of respect, no alteration in the public conduct. And in private, she asked. He held her gaze. In private, he said, I will not pretend this has not changed something. Her throat tightened. But whatever follows, he continued, will not be decided in silence. He turned toward the door, then stopped. One more thing, he said. She waited. You were right to speak when you did. The door closed behind him. Elaine remained standing long after his footsteps faded. Nothing had ended. Nothing had been resolved. But the rule that once stood immovable between them had shifted. Not shattered, not surrendered, merely cracked. And she knew with quiet certainty that whatever came next would not be borne by silence alone. Lord Kensington did not return to his study. He couldn't. The walls felt too tight. Instead, he walked. The path took him past the lower fields. The ground was bare, frozen hard. He stopped where the fence line dipped. A gate stood ajar, swinging slightly in the wind. He reached out and slammed it shut. The latch clicked. Order. He needed order. He tested it again. Locked. If only everything else was this simple to fix. He turned back toward the house. The library was dark, but the drawing room glowed. Her drawing room. He slowed, his breath hitching in the cold air, but he didn't stop. He couldn't face her yet. He went to the chapel. The candles were already lit. He didn't kneel. He wasn't looking for forgiveness. He was looking for clarity. He sat in the first pew, leaning forward, elbows on his thighs, his hands clasped so tight his knuckles turned white. He sat there for a long time, the silence ringing in his ears. Eventually, he reached into his coat and pulled out the paper. Her letter. He didn't read it. He just stared at the fold, remembering the way her voice hadn't shaken. She had been terrified, yet she hadn't lied. The door behind him creaked. He didn't turn. I told them to leave the candles, Mrs. Harrow said, her voice soft. I thought you might come. He nodded once. The movement felt heavy. I will be dining later. Yes, my lord. She hesitated. Shall I inform the Duchess? His heart hammered once, hard against his ribs. No. When she left, he finally stood up. He caught his reflection in the darkened glass of the narrow window. Impeccable auburn hair, still perfectly parted despite the wind. Striking light blue eyes that looked back at him, hollow and exhausted. A smooth, clean-shaven jaw that was clenched tight enough to ache. He looked like the perfect duke. He felt like a fraud. He extinguished one candle with careful fingers. Then another. He left the last one burning. A small defiance against the dark. In the corridor, he stopped outside her door. He didn't knock. He rested his hand against the wood. He wanted to push it open. He wanted to tell her that rules were armor, but she had somehow slipped a knife right through the chinks. But he didn't. He let his hand fall. That night, Elaine didn't hear his step outside her room. But by morning, the household knew something had shifted. Not because of shouting, not because of orders, but because the Duke took breakfast in the smaller dining room and waited. Elaine stood too long by the window. She reached for the chair, but her hand slid off the wood. Lord Kensington crossed the room and caught her arm. "Elaine, I'm fine," she said. Her knees buckled. He lifted her at once, one arm beneath her knees, the other steady at her back. He carried her into her room and set her carefully onto the bed. "Stay there." He removed her shoes, loosened her collar, poured water. She drank. "Rest," he said. "I'll come back later." He left. The room darkened. Elaine lay still. Sleep came and went. Footsteps returned. The door opened quietly. Lord Kensington entered. He crossed to the bed. The mattress dipped as he sat on the edge. She didn't wake. He should have left. He had checked on her. Duty was done. But he didn't move. The lamp was low, casting shadows across her face. He watched the steady rise and fall of her breathing. He watched the way her hair spilled over the pillow, messy and unguarded. God, she is so beautiful. The thought hit him like a physical blow. It wasn't poetic. It was just a fact. And it was dangerous. He leaned in. He wanted to see her clearly. He wanted to be closer, just for a second. He leaned further. Too long. Too close. Elaine shifted. Her eyes flew open. She sat up. Fast. Thud. Their foreheads collided. Hard. "Oh!" she gasped, clutching her head. He jerked back, wincing, his hand flying to his own forehead. "Elaine, I didn't know you were there," she stammered, rubbing the spot above her brow. "I was checking on you," he said quickly. Too quickly. He dropped his hand. They stared at each other. The pain faded instantly. The heat didn't. Their faces were inches apart. He could see the confusion in her eyes turn into something else, something darker. "Does it hurt?" he asked, his voice rough. "No," she whispered. He didn't pull away. He leaned down and kissed her. Once. He waited. She caught his collar and kissed him again. He answered. Slow. Deliberate. He broke the kiss and rested his forehead against hers. Gently this time. "Not tonight," he murmured. She nodded, breathless. He stayed another moment, his thumb brushing her cheek. Then he stood. "I'll be nearby," he said. He turned the lamp lower and left the room. Elaine lay awake, her hand resting on her forehead where he had bumped her. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. She slept. Spring didn't announce itself. It just arrived. It came in the softening of the ground, in the pale green returning to the hedgerows, in the way the light lingered, reluctant to leave. Elaine noticed it because she wasn't watching for danger anymore. The house had changed too. Doors weren't barriers. Silence wasn't a weapon. It was just peace. They dined together now, not by arrangement, but by preference. He spoke to her of matters he'd never shared, concerns about tenants, about legacy, about the crushing weight of expectation. She listened. She always had. But now she was invited to speak. One evening, as dusk settled over the grounds, he found her at the gallery window. "You look content," he said. She turned, smiling softly. "I feel settled." He stepped closer. His shoulder brushed hers. Familiar now. Since that night in her room, the distance between them had vanished. "It was never my intention," he said quietly, "to build a life ruled by fear of loss." Elaine looked at his profile. Nor mine. They stood together in silence, the kind that didn't need to be filled. Later that night he came to her door, not as an obligation, not as an expectation, but as a choice. He didn't knock. He didn't wait for permission. He opened the door and walked in. Elaine stood from her chair, her breath catching. He didn't stop at the threshold. He closed the door firmly behind him, the latch clicking loud in the quiet room. Then he turned to her. He crossed the room in 3 long strides. He didn't stop until he was standing right in front of her, close enough to steal the air from her lungs. He reached out, his hand cupping her cheek, his thumb grazing her lower lip. His eyes were dark, focused, and absolutely certain. "I told you I would be nearby," he murmured. "But I'm done with nearby. Elaine's heart hammered against her ribs. "What do you want, my lord?" He lowered his head, his lips brushing hers, a promise, not a question. "I want you," he said, "and I'm tired of waiting." He kissed her. It wasn't gentle, it was acclaiming. He swept her up into his arms and she wrapped hers around his neck, holding on tight as he carried her toward the bed. Morning broke in a wash of soft gold. Elaine woke to warmth, the steady, solid weight of his presence beside her. His hand rested lightly at her waist, heavy, possessive, real. She lay still, listening to his breathing, letting the reality of peace settle into her bones. He stirred. He turned toward her. "Good morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep. She smiled. "Good morning." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. His thumb lingered on her lower lip. "I'm glad," he said, "that you stayed. So am I." The letters from her parents arrived weeks later. Cautious at first, then softer. Regret is a slow thing, but it came. Elaine read them aloud in the evenings, her voice steady, her heart light. Summer approached. The estate breathed. Guests came. Laughter returned to rooms that had long known only restraint. Through it all, Lord and Lady Kensington moved together, not as a spectacle for society, but as a certainty. One evening, music drifted from the far end of the house, a simple melody. Elaine paused, listening. He watched her. He understood without being told. "Stay," he said. She did. As the final notes lingered in the air, she rested her head against his shoulder. She knew then, with a calm she had never possessed before, that love didn't ask you to disappear. It asked only that you remain.
I stood where the light grows thin at night, by the window that knows my name. The world felt wide, my breath felt small, and I feared I would fade away.
I saw you sway where the shadows fall, heard silence call you weak. I crossed the room, I caught your weight before the ground could speak. Please stay, don't turn from me now. Please stay, I know how to hold you if the night comes close, if your strength feels gone. Please stay, I am already yours.
You said my name like it anchored me, like it mattered I stood at all. I tried to speak, but the room went pale, and the world began to fall.
I lifted you like it was always known, like this was my right to do. A man who loves does not ask permission, he carries what he is given to. Please stay, don't turn from me now. Please stay, I know how to hold you if the night comes close, if your strength feels gone. Please stay, I am already
down where the curtains breathe, gave water, light, and rest. Your hands were sure, your voice was low, a promise in your chest.
I should have left when the duty was done, but I stayed where the lamplight slept. I watched your breath rise soft and slow, and my rule broke where I knelt. Please stay, don't turn from me now. Please stay, I know how to hold you if the night comes close, if your strength feels gone. Please stay, I am already yours.
I woke too fast, our foreheads met, a gasp, a startled cry. Your eyes were there, too close to real, no space left for goodbye.
I kissed you once to ask the truth. I waited, you stayed still. You kissed me back and the world grew quiet by the strength of your will. Please stay, don't turn from me now. Please stay, I know how to hold you if the night comes close, if your strength feels gone. Please stay, I am already yours.
I woke too fast, our foreheads met, a gasp, a startled cry. Your eyes were there, too close to real, no space left for goodbye.
Spring learned our names, the has the truth. The past released its hold. I chose you then, I choose you still, and I will when we are old.
Please stay through every season.
Please stay when words fall silent.